Hey guys, what's going on? It's Rekt Capital and welcome back to the channel. Thanks so much for joining me in today's video about how does the death cross affect altcoins. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future and let's dive right into the video. So altcoin dominance is a great way to just understand what's going on in the altcoin market. And of course, for much of 2021, we've just seen an uninterrupted uptrend with very little dipping in the altcoin dominance, which just showcases to us that altcoins are in a macro bull market. But of course, over the past few weeks, we've been seeing some sort of holding back. We can't seem to break past these highs here for altcoin dominance. And if you just look at previous altcoin dominance cycles dating to 2017, then you can see that this is a major resistance zone. We tend to form upside down V shapes. So that's a V pretty much upside down. And similarly here, right? So we tend to see these volatile rejections, which precede further downside for altcoin dominance every single time, leading to drastic corrections in altcoin market cap as well as altcoin dominance in the market overall. But the fact that we're consolidating here, forming a lower high nonetheless, but consolidating in what might be a pennant-like formation, it is quite positive that we haven't seen a drastic sell-off like on these few occasions. So really important to just watch out for how this bull pennant continues to hold going forward. But what I just want to talk to you guys about today is how do altcoins react to death crosses. And I spoke to you guys in a previous video about what's going on with altcoin dominance and altcoins as a whole. Are they still in a macro bull market or are they preparing for a bear market? Feel free to check that video out in the top right hand corner. But let's talk about historical death crosses through the lens of altcoins. So here's the death cross that occurred in mid-2014, which preceded a 71% crash for Bitcoin's price action. So if we just go to mid-2014 for altcoin dominance, you'll notice that the death cross, roughly speaking, was actually quite positive for altcoins, right? That's quite interesting to see because Bitcoin didn't do very well during that period. In April 2014, you can see that there's a extensive, of course, there is a relief rally. So that immediate relief rally then translates into that death cross, which happens actually closer to September. So if we focus first on around September, then you can see that the death cross proceeds downside for Bitcoin, but also for altcoins, though altcoins do tend to try to press their higher highs before following Bitcoin nonetheless. So interesting to see that death cross correlation there. But what about mid 2018? Also, we got a death cross here for Bitcoin's price action. And once that death cross occurred, we saw minus 65% drawdown in Bitcoin's price action. And if we just do this mid 2018 once again for the death cross, and how does that translate into altcoins? Well, you can see that they were already confirming a bear market, much like Bitcoin was, in fact. And in fact, altcoins here are forming a macro lower high, and they've only just finished up their relief rally to confirm that macro lower high, to confirm that bear market. And you can see that we see drawdown in altcoin dominance. So right over here, that death cross in Bitcoin's price action as well as in altcoin dominance, we're seeing that death crosses for both Bitcoin and altcoins tend to proceed further downside. So let's fast forward to June 2019. Here's the next death cross right over here. And it proceeds a bit of downside. And then we actually see these EMAs just oscillate during this time period, really. So let's just focus on the moment that death cross happens right over here. We see a drawdown of 55% to the March 2020 crash before reversing towards the upside. If we just focus on that June 2019, when was this cross actually? Right over here, we get the June 2019 peak, of course, and the death cross happens around November, Q3 here for Bitcoin. We then actually see a higher low form for altcoins. So if we just go back to that, just to make sure that I'm saying the right thing here, That death cross happened here in around Q3 of 2019, that's right. And the next death cross that occurs is in March 2020, which is around this time. And this is where altcoins are just confirming their bull market with this higher low relative to this low. So the overall March 2020 death cross itself isn't really a valid one because it actually precedes the bottom not only for Bitcoin, or at least it precedes the bottom for Bitcoin, but altcoin dominance, it precedes a higher low to confirm a new trend forming. And you can see that this is a low, higher low. This is a bit of a fake out, but nonetheless a double bottom here compared to that first low. So essentially in March 2020, we confirmed a bottom for Bitcoin with that death cross and a higher low for altcoin dominance to confirm a new bull market. So this death cross overall is an invalid one, and it's probably because we're in a macro accumulation range, something I spoke about in previous videos. But generally speaking, macro accumulation ranges tend to make these EMAs converge quite closely to one another in a sense that they just begin to oscillate, performing trend meaningless golden crosses, death crosses constantly. But generally speaking, whenever we see, for instance, in this case in 2017, these EMAs are really far away from one another. So when they converge, they perform a true and effective death cross, because then we see these EMAs continue to diverge actually from one another as that volatility increases. So the way to think about death crosses, in fact, is that when you see really strong divergence in these EMAs, that's when a lot of volatility is happening, and something to bear in mind about potential convergence, so potential topping out happening. But if you see volatility like this on the other end of the spectrum, right, for a bear market bottom, you see tremendous divergence in the EMAs as well. Tremendous divergence in the EMAs. Once again here, before they converge for a golden cross. So really interesting to watch out for. That sort of tendency recurring over time. But generally speaking, if we just sum up what we've just spoke about in this video, then you'll notice that in mid 2014, or rather Q3 or Q4 of 2014, when a death cross happened for Bitcoin's price action, that preceded a top for altcoin dominance as well. When we saw around mid 2018 a death cross for Bitcoin, that preceded significant drawdown for altcoins as well. Q3 here, we then actually see a higher low form, and then we perform a golden cross briefly, and then that invalid, that oscillating EMA that predicts the bottom. So not your best death cross here, but over here, right, that's true. In Q3, you see that crossover, that death cross happen here for Bitcoin, and in Q3 of 2019, you just see a higher low form, which is quite interesting. It is quite interesting to see that right over here. And the March 2020 cycle, the March 2020 death cross also forms a higher low. So that's quite interesting to see that death crosses after significant drawdown for altcoins might even form higher lows. But generally, they tend to precede tops like it did here, like it did here as well. And in periods of macro accumulation, like we saw throughout 2019 and 2020, where altcoins were really, they'd retrace quite significantly, you'll notice that they form higher lows. Those death crosses don't necessarily matter much to altcoins because they have already experienced a lot of drawdown. So the fact that we're seeing a potential death cross for altcoins in a period of resistance, historical resistance, could be alarming, something to bear in mind, because we do have a potential bull pennant forming. But we have to also understand that we are in an exhausted state in the altcoin market. We've had real upside with not much dipping along the way up. So really important to just be careful about how we treat our altcoin positions. Not to necessarily build new ones. Now that we got a death cross, we need to see how Bitcoin now behaves relative to key crucial support levels, just like I mentioned in the video yesterday. But we have to watch out for whether this bullish structure holds, because if it doesn't, we'll see a significant markdown in altcoin dominance, and breaking this potential bull structure would effectively validate that death cross on Bitcoin's price action. So we'd once again reject from this historical resistance area. So all about that death cross right now, all about that potential bull pennant for altcoin dominance at this very crucial historical resistance area. That's pretty much it. Historically, death crosses don't favor altcoin dominance, especially if they're at highs, right? Because when they're at highs, we tend to see drawdown afterwards, like we saw over there. But in macro periods of accumulation for Bitcoin, as well as after significant drawdown in altcoin dominance already, we tend to see death crosses not play much of an effect on and much of a role on altcoin dominance. But when altcoin dominance has overextended towards the upside, it's very important to just be careful about building new positions and, of course, managing risk on your existing positions. Nonetheless, guys, that's about it for today's video update. Thank you so much for watching today. Subscribe to the channel for more videos like this in the future. And of course, like the video if you enjoyed this one. I'm Rekt Capital and I'll speak to you in the next one. Speak to you soon.